What if I told you that the reason you're exhausted, anxious, and constantly disappointed is because you're giving too much of yourself to people who never deserved it? In today's world, everyone wants your attention, your energy, and your validation. But the Stoics discovered something powerful thousands of years ago. The more you focus on yourself and remain silent, the stronger you become. In this video, you'll learn why silence intimidates people, why self-focus transforms your life, and why mastering these two skills can make you almost impossible to break. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop explaining yourself to people, your life becomes strangely peaceful? Think about it. The more you talk about your dreams, the more criticism you receive. The more you defend yourself, the more people misunderstand you. The more you seek validation, the more powerless you become. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people never realize until it's too late. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. In fact, some of the strongest people in history became powerful, not because they spoke more, but because they mastered silence. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet spent much of his life writing private reflections that were never meant for public eyes. He understood something modern society has forgotten. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power. And if you stay until the end of this video, you'll discover why focusing on yourself while remaining silent may be the single most dangerous advantage you can develop in today's world. Because once you truly understand this Stoic principle, people will never look at you the same way again. Imagine a young man named David. David was talented, ambitious, and hard-working. Every new goal he had, he immediately shared with friends, family, co-workers, and social media. When he wanted to start a business, everyone knew. When he wanted to lose weight, everyone knew. When he planned to change careers, everyone knew. At first, people supported him, but over time something strange happened. The opinions started coming. That's risky. Are you sure you're good enough? Maybe you should stay where you are. Most businesses fail. Little by little, David lost momentum. He spent more time talking about success than actually building it. Months passed. Nothing changed. Then something happened. After another failed attempt, David stopped announcing his plans. No more public declarations, no more seeking approval, no more explaining. He quietly disappeared. For almost an entire year, people barely heard from him. While everyone else was distracted by endless conversations, comparisons, arguments, and social media battles, David was working. Silently, relentlessly, and when he finally returned, everything had changed. He had transformed his body, built a successful business, improved his finances, developed confidence. People were shocked. How did this happen? But David had learned one of Stoicism's greatest lessons. Move in silence. Let results make the noise. Most people sabotage themselves because they crave recognition before achievement. The Stoics warned against this thousands of years ago. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. When you constantly announce your goals, you become attached to other people's reactions. Their approval becomes your fuel, and their criticism becomes your poison. Suddenly, your life no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the crowd, and crowds are rarely wise. Today, millions of people post every thought, every feeling, every ambition for strangers to evaluate. They seek validation because validation feels good. But validation is addictive. The moment your happiness depends on external approval, you surrender your freedom. This is exactly why so many people feel anxious, depressed, and lost. They have forgotten how to live for themselves. They have forgotten how to be alone. And perhaps most importantly, they have forgotten how to remain silent. But silence does something extraordinary. Silence reveals truth. When external noise disappears, you begin hearing your own mind. At first, this is uncomfortable. Many people avoid silence because silence forces them to confront themselves. Their fears, their regrets, their insecurities, their loneliness. This is why people constantly seek distraction, endless scrolling, constant entertainment, unnecessary conversations. Noise has become an escape. But the Stoics viewed solitude differently. Epictetus taught that no person is free who is not master of themselves. And self-mastery can never develop in constant distraction. You cannot understand yourself while running from yourself. You cannot discover your purpose while drowning in noise. You cannot become powerful if you fear being alone. The strongest individuals in history often spent enormous amounts of time in solitude, not because they hated people, but because solitude sharpened them. In solitude, they developed discipline. In solitude, they strengthened their minds. In solitude, they built visions others could not see. And this brings us to an uncomfortable reality. Not everyone wants to see you succeed. Some people secretly benefit from your weakness. Your growth threatens them. Your discipline exposes their excuses. Your ambition reminds them of their own inaction. When you begin improving yourself, some people will criticize you not because you're wrong, but because your transformation makes them uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As emperor, he faced betrayal, criticism, and constant opposition. Yet he wrote these words to himself: "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, stop wasting energy fighting people. Stop explaining, stop arguing, stop seeking justice from those committed to misunderstanding you. Focus on becoming stronger. Silently, because nothing confuses people more than a person who refuses to react. The Stoic principle is simple, yet incredibly difficult to practice. You cannot control what other people think about you. Read that again. You cannot control what other people think about you. Most suffering begins the moment we forget this truth. Think about how much of your life has been spent trying to manage the opinions of others. You carefully choose your words, hoping everyone will understand. You explain your decisions, hoping people will approve. You defend your actions, hoping critics will finally accept you. And yet, no matter how hard you try, someone still misunderstands you, someone still criticizes you, someone still judges you. Why? Because every person sees the world through the lens of their own experiences, fears, insecurities, and beliefs. Two people can witness the exact same event and interpret it completely differently. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things themselves, but by the views they take of them. In other words, people are not reacting to who you truly are. They are reacting to their perception of you, and perception is something you cannot fully control. The moment you truly accept this reality, something extraordinary happens. You become free. Free from the exhausting need to explain yourself. Free from constantly defending your choices. Free from living according to someone else's expectations. Because suddenly you realize that your responsibility is not to control opinions. Your responsibility is to live according to your values, quietly, consistently, courageously. Imagine a ship crossing a violent ocean. The captain cannot control the wind. He cannot control the waves. He cannot control the storm, but he can control how he steers the ship. Life works the same way. Criticism is the wind. Rejection is the storm. Betrayal is the wave. You cannot stop them from coming, but you can decide whether they sink you. Unfortunately, most people hand the steering wheel of their lives to strangers. A single negative comment ruins their entire day. One rejection destroys their confidence. One betrayal causes them to stop trusting themselves. Their emotional state constantly rises and falls according to external circumstances. The Stoics considered this a form of slavery. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength does not mean becoming cold. Strength means becoming stable. Stable in chaos. Stable in criticism. Stable in uncertainty. Because life will test you. People will disappoint you. Friends may betray you. Relationships may end. Dreams may collapse. And in those moments you discover whether your identity was built on external approval or internal conviction. Many people spend decades constructing an identity based entirely on how others see them. They become whatever gains acceptance. They say what people want to hear. They suppress their true thoughts. They abandon their authentic selves. Eventually they wake up one day feeling empty. Successful perhaps, popular perhaps, but disconnected from who they really are. This is one of the greatest tragedies of modern life. A person can lose themselves without even realizing it. Slowly, silently, one compromise at a time, one act of people-pleasing at a time, one abandoned dream at a time. The Stoics warned against this. They believed that integrity was worth more than popularity, because popularity changes, character remains, and character is forged in silence. No one sees the private battles. No one sees the mornings you wake up discouraged yet continue anyway. No one sees the temptations you resist. No one sees the tears you hide. No one sees the fears you overcome. Yet these unseen moments determine your future. This is why focusing on yourself is so powerful. When your attention shifts inward, your entire life changes. You stop competing with others. You start competing with the person you were yesterday. You stop asking why someone else is succeeding. You begin asking how you can improve. You stop seeking applause. You begin seeking excellence. And excellence is a lonely path. Not because you are alone, but because very few people are willing to endure what greatness requires. Most people want results. Few want discipline. Most people want admiration. Few want sacrifice. Most people want transformation. Few want discomfort. But every meaningful transformation requires discomfort. The body grows stronger through resistance. The mind grows stronger through adversity. The soul grows stronger through hardship. Seneca understood this deeply. He wrote that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body. Think about the hardest period of your life. Perhaps you lost someone you loved. Perhaps you experienced betrayal. Perhaps you faced failure, humiliation, loneliness, or uncertainty. At the time, it may have felt unbearable. Yet looking back, many people realize that their greatest suffering became the source of their greatest strength. Pain often becomes the teacher success could never be. This does not mean suffering is pleasant. It means suffering can be purposeful, especially when experienced in silence. Notice that some of the strongest individuals you know rarely complain. This doesn't mean they never struggle. It means they have learned an important truth. Constant complaining rarely solves problems. Action does, reflection does, discipline does, resilience does. Today, complaining has become almost fashionable. People complain about the economy, complain about politics, complain about relationships, complain about circumstances, yet very little changes. Stoicism invites us to ask a different question. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can this teach me?" That single question transforms suffering into growth. A breakup becomes an opportunity to develop self-respect. Failure becomes an opportunity to improve. Loneliness becomes an opportunity for self-discovery. Criticism becomes an opportunity to strengthen emotional control. Everything changes when growth becomes your primary objective. And this is where silence becomes essential, because growth requires reflection. You cannot reflect while constantly reacting. You cannot evolve while constantly seeking distraction. You cannot hear wisdom while surrounded by endless noise. Many people fear being alone because solitude exposes unresolved wounds. Memories surface, regrets emerge, pain returns, but avoiding pain does not heal pain, only confronting it does. The Stoics deliberately practiced solitude because they understood that healing begins where distraction ends. Imagine sitting alone without your phone. No television, no music, no conversation, just you and your thoughts. For many people, this feels unbearable. Why? Because they have spent years escaping themselves. Yet the relationship you have with yourself determines every other relationship in your life. If you cannot enjoy your own company, you will seek people out of desperation rather than genuine connection. Desperation attracts unhealthy relationships. Self-respect attracts healthy ones. This is why focusing on yourself often transforms relationships. When you stop chasing people, something remarkable happens. You begin seeing clearly. You notice who genuinely values you. You notice who only appears when they need something. You notice who supports your growth and who secretly resents it. Distance reveals truth. Silence reveals character. Absence reveals value. People often discover your importance only after losing access to you. But by then, something inside you has changed. You no longer need validation. You no longer chase. You no longer beg for attention. Because you have learned to give yourself what you once demanded from others: respect, love, acceptance, peace. This inner abundance changes everything. You become less reactive, less needy, less fearful, more grounded, more confident, more resilient. And ironically, this is often when people suddenly become attracted to you. Why? Because genuine confidence is magnetic, not arrogance, not superiority. Confidence, the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, I know my values, I know my purpose, and I refuse to abandon my... The final lesson is this: your time is limited, and most people waste it. Not because they are lazy, but because they are distracted. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that he could leave life at any moment. This wasn't meant to create fear. It was meant to create urgency, because when you truly understand that life is temporary, your priorities begin to change. Suddenly, arguments seem less important. Seeking approval seems less important. Explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you seems completely pointless. You begin asking a different question. If today were my last day, would this still matter? Would this argument matter? Would this criticism matter? Would these opinions matter? Most of the time the answer is no, and that realization is liberating. One of the greatest tragedies in life is reaching old age and realizing you spent decades living according to expectations that were never truly yours. Imagine being 80 years old. You look back on your life. What will matter? Will you be proud that strangers approved of you? Will you celebrate the endless hours spent worrying about criticism? Will you cherish the moments you betrayed yourself just to fit in? Probably not. You will remember the risks you took, the dreams you pursued, the people you genuinely loved, the obstacles you overcame, the person you became. Because at the end of life, character matters far more than reputation. Reputation exists in other people's minds. Character exists within you, and character is built one decision at a time. Every day you are voting for the person you will become. Every action is a vote. Every habit is a vote. Every excuse is a vote. Every act of discipline is a vote. Who are you voting for? The distracted version of yourself, the fearful version, the people-pleasing version, or the disciplined, focused, and courageous version? Your future depends on the answer. Most people underestimate the power of small daily actions. They wait for massive breakthroughs, life-changing opportunities, perfect circumstances, but transformation rarely happens dramatically. It happens quietly, almost invisibly. One workout, one book, one difficult conversation, one early morning, one temptation resisted, 1 hour of focused work. Repeated consistently over months and years, these small actions completely transform a human being. The problem is that modern culture glorifies instant results. People want success immediately, confidence immediately, wealth immediately, happiness immediately. But nature does not operate this way. A tree does not become mighty overnight. An athlete does not become elite overnight. A wise person does not become wise overnight. Growth requires patience. The Stoics understood this. They focused not on immediate outcomes but on daily progress. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. In other words, stop postponing your life. Stop waiting. Stop saying someday. Someday is dangerous. Someday becomes next year. Next year becomes next decade. And eventually someday becomes never. How many dreams have already died because of someday? How many books remain unwritten? Businesses unstarted? Conversations unspoken, lives unlived. Do not let your life become another unfinished story. Focus on yourself. Start now, even if progress feels slow, even if nobody notices, especially if nobody notices, because the greatest transformations happen in private. The world sees the harvest. Very few witness the planting. People admire success. They rarely admire preparation. They celebrate achievement. They rarely celebrate sacrifice. But sacrifice always comes first. This is why silence is so powerful. Silence protects the seed while it grows. When a seed is planted underground, nothing appears to happen. Days pass, weeks pass, perhaps even months. Above the surface there is nothing to see. Yet beneath the soil, roots are forming. Strength is developing. Foundations are being built. Human growth works exactly the same way. Never underestimate seasons of invisible progress. Your silent efforts matter. Your lonely mornings matter. Your disciplined choices matter, even when nobody applauds, even when nobody believes in you, even when results seem distant. Keep going, because one day the same people who ignored your struggle will witness your transformation. And they will call it luck. They will never see the sacrifices, the tears, the self-doubt, the failures, the nights you wanted to quit, the battles you fought within yourself, but you will know. And that knowledge creates a different kind of confidence. A quiet confidence, a confidence that does not need validation because it has already survived too much. Many people spend their entire lives searching for power in money, status, titles, or admiration. Yet the Stoics discovered that true power comes from something far deeper, the ability to govern yourself, to remain calm in chaos, to stay disciplined when motivation disappears, to continue walking when the road becomes difficult, to remain kind without becoming weak, to remain humble without becoming invisible, to remain silent without becoming passive. This is true strength, and the beautiful thing is that anyone can develop it. Regardless of age, regardless of background, regardless of past mistakes. Your past does not define you. Your current choices do. You can begin again today. You can decide that your energy will no longer be wasted on meaningless battles. You can decide that your peace is worth protecting. You can decide that your attention belongs to your future rather than other people's opinions. You can decide that silence will become your strength. Imagine where you could be 1 year from now if you stopped seeking validation and started seeking growth. Imagine how different your relationships would become. Imagine how much peace you would feel. Imagine how powerful you would become. The person you want to become already exists within you, buried beneath fear, buried beneath distraction, buried beneath the need for approval. Your task is not to create that person. Your task is simply to remove everything that is preventing them from emerging. So from this day forward, speak less, observe more, react less, reflect more, seek less validation, pursue more excellence. Stop explaining. Start building, stop chasing, start becoming, and remember this: the loudest people in the room are rarely the strongest. The strongest people are usually too busy building their future to announce it. Move quietly, work relentlessly, protect your peace. Focus on yourself. Stay silent, and let your results speak so loudly that explanations become unnecessary. If this message resonated with you, comment below, "I choose silence." And if you're committed to mastering your mind, strengthening your character, and living with Stoic wisdom, make sure to subscribe, because your journey toward becoming unstoppable has only just begun.